Hey, what's up, guys? This is PNX here. I want to discuss a couple things of how to defeat the Tiamat. I'm going to touch on 3 to 4 main points, which I would heavily recommend you to follow if you're struggling with the Tiamat so you can get through it a lot easier. Another disclaimer I do want to say, this is not the first time you're going to fight the Tiamat. You're going to fight it a second time way later in the game, towards the end of the game. I would say like 80% through the game. So you definitely want to get this down pack of how to deal with them. So then when you deal with them way later on, it's going to be a lot easier. One of the first things that you need to focus on is to make sure your equipment's up to date with the recommended level. The recommended level, I believe, is 40. You want to make sure your equipment's somewhere near 40, at least a level or two below. I wouldn't go too much below that. The recommended levels are there so that you know, hey, I'm not going to take too much damage, and I'm also going to give a decent amount of damage. You want to make sure you're at an even playing field to where you're giving as much damage and then not taking as much either. If your equipment's super lower, you're going to take more damage and then also not do as much damage. So just make sure it's near 40. I recommend at least level 38. If you can get it higher than 40, even better. Just go to the upgrade section of your weapons and you can upgrade it, I think, like plus 10 or plus 15 past that if you want to manually do it instead of just grinding certain levels. The second thing, me personally, I was only able to use one class because after fighting him for a while, I adjusted to a lot of his moves and I could perfect block and soul charge, so I only had to use Knight. But I would heavily recommend to use two classes. You need to have one class that's heavily attack based and another class that helps you heal in some form or fashion. I recommend White Mage. White Mage is the best at healing, in my opinion, out of all the main basic and advanced classes. White Mage would be the best to equip. That's what it solely specializes in. So you're going to use White Mage to heal. There's a move called Cure. Make sure you have two classes. Move called Regen. Use Regen if you don't have a lot of MP. If you have like a bar MP, use Regen. That'll allow you to slowly regain your health. But preferably use Cure if you have 2 bars of MP. It will instantly shoot your health near all the way up. And then it's you and your allies, so they'll also heal too. And it's extremely useful if none of your allies are using a mage class because they won't have a way to heal unless they're a monk, which I believe you can set Jed to that class. So besides Jed, a lot of them are just going to be running through their potions. You want to not run through your potions as much as possible and kind of save it towards the end because he is going to constantly be aggressive towards you. And you're not going to have much breathing room. And the attack class you need to have so you can do a bunch of damage on. Something like Berserker, Ronin, Knight, I recommend those. I was using Ronin at first and then I switched to Knight. Ronin was not good against this boss in my opinion until later on because it's heavily attack based, but it doesn't have a lot of ways for you to recover MP at an extremely fast rate or a way for you to heal. Knight is the best of both the worlds. And the reason why I heavily recommend that class is because Knight is going to allow you to deal a lot of damage, do a lot of combos with your MP, and then there's a move you specifically need. And then you don't get this move to, I think you're level 25 of that class, so towards maxing the class out. But it allows you to essentially regen every time you perfect block. If you can master perfect blocking, and then every single time he does it, you will regenerate off of that. And it'll give you like a regen status, so it'll slowly regenerate you over time. And if you keep blocking consecutively, it's going to add and kind of stack on top of each other. So I definitely recommend that. If you have that with the Knight class, you really won't even have to use White Mage. From the footage you guys can see, I haven't switched to White Mage one time, I think, through the entire fight. I solely stuck with the Knight because I mastered the perfect blocking and was able to constantly abuse that. And so I didn't have to waste my potions. The next thing I heavily recommend, make sure everyone's equally being aggro. You cannot sit there and watch your followers fight the entire time. If you do that, he will eventually aggro you automatically because he's seeing that as, hey, you just want to sit there and watch, so let me go attack you too. Make sure everyone's equally aggroing. You want to make sure you're timing those D-pad moves right. Make sure you're timing those right. When he's sitting there charging up or doing a lot of those beam attacks, those are perfect timing to start cutting at his head. Make sure everyone's getting equal treatment of getting aggro. If you're getting aggro, you're going to take a lot of damage and you're not going to have breathing room to plan and kind of strategize your attack. If they're getting aggro, they're taking constant damage, and it's not giving them enough time to heal up or have some breathing room. So make sure the aggro is being switched. You go in, do a lot of damage, pull back out, bring some cures, some potions in, or do what you got to do. Allow him to switch to aggroing to them, and then start attacking him again while they're aggroing him. And just kind of allow that to cycle. That'll give you plenty of breathing room and make sure he's not constantly attacking one person, so you guys end up getting downed. You do not want to get downed. Your allies will eventually get downed if they're just constantly being attacked. It would happen pretty frequently. Oh, and the last point I want to touch on, make sure you use Lightbringer. I cannot emphasize that enough. That is one of the most important aspects of this fight. This boss is not like the other bosses. You cannot beat this boss based on bringing his HP down. It is the only boss in the game that can be beaten by you bringing its guard down. It's going to infinitely regenerate on its second phase. So to prevent that, you have to bring its guard down. Don't worry about it during the first phase of the fight. Worry about it in the second phase. Spam Lightbringer. Spam Lightbringer. I cannot emphasize that enough. You need to make sure his max guard goes down, so each time he regenerates, his max guard is only going up slightly, and you'll just bring it down further each time. If you do it that way, you'll only usually regenerate 3 to 4 times, and then you should be able to kill him your final time. But that's why you want a heavy attack class that does massive damage, so then the Lightbringer is bringing his max HP down, his max MP down drastically. But that's pretty much the whole gist of the fight. You take all those tools, all those tips, it should be a little bit easier. It's not going to be massively easier, but it should be easier to deal with him in the fight and eventually get through him. And then once you get through the Tiamat, the other bosses should be a lot easier to deal with in the game. He's one of the hardest bosses in the game. But that's basically it for today, guys. I hope that helped. And go ahead and have some fun and defeat that Tiamat. Let me know how it goes. See you guys later.